Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tullahoma. This is Sunday, April 30th. So welcome to those of you in church, to those of you on Zoom, and those live streaming. So we'll start with an opening reading. And this comes from Edgar Mitchell, an astronaut. There are no unnatural or supernatural phenomena, only very large gaps in our knowledge of what is natural. We should strive to fill these gaps of ignorance. I theorize that there is a spectrum of consciousness available to human beings. At one end is material consciousness. At the other end is what we call field consciousness, where a person is at one with the universe, perceiving the universe. Just by looking at our planet on the way back from the moon, I saw and felt a field consciousness state, a glimpse of divinity. All right, so now we will go to our chalice lighting, and then Lucy, I believe Lucy will play a song after we light the chalice. And Bill, what's the song we're going to play?
12.
12, okay. So first we'll do the chalice lighting.
Leave that in there. You go on and said that. You can change it.
As we light this chalice, we are reminded that we are not isolated beings, but we are connected in mystery and miracle to the universe
Sit down.
and to each other.
Sit down.
Please, Lucy, if you would play your song now. Thank you.
got a little stronger with each refrain, I think.
Oh no, we suck again.
All right, we'll now move on to announcements. So if you have an announcement, raise your hand, we'll get to you. Rick, yes?
Yeah, the Wednesday night discussion group has slid into TED Talks here at the church, starting at 7 or slightly after. And we're enjoying that. We don't know which way we're going, but we invite again anyone to come. And there are refreshments, and good time is had by all. Y'all come about 7 on Wednesday nights, right after Zen.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? Yes, Costa.
Yeah, just a reminder that this is our time period for pledges for the next fiscal year, and I've received several, so thank you for that. Our fiscal year starts July 1. We're in the budgeting process. So the pledges that we do get now help us to better determine what our budget will be able to be for next year. So if you haven't done so, if you can send in your pledge starting July 1, it'd be much appreciated. And you can just email that to me, or you can complete a form that's out on the table.
All right, and Bill? Yes.
For those of you who don't get the newspaper, Costa was selected by somebody to be the HR person of the world, or something like that. You might elaborate, I forget exactly what that was. But
It's the public sector HR organization for the state. I've been past president of it over twice over the last 26 years of my career. So I was very fortunate to be selected. It was really a great honor. And with those of you knowing some of the challenges I've been going through, it's just nice to have something positive out there in the paper. So I appreciate all the positive support and good words so many of you have shared with me. So thank you.
All right. Anything else? Tony, yes.
Just a reminder, Saturday, May 20th, we're going to have a social gathering somewhere at some time, doing something. Hopefully, put out something soon.
Thanks for all that information.
Thank you, Tony.
Y'all
Yes.
be there.
All right, I have a few announcements to go through. So PFLAG meets in our building at 6 p.m. on the second Monday of the month, so they should be meeting a week from tomorrow, the 8th of May. We do have a vacancy, we'll have a vacancy on the board starting July 1 for the religious education coordinator. Katie has been doing that for many, many years, so thank you very much, Katie, but she has decided to step aside from that. So if you're interested in serving on the board in that capacity, please get in touch with me. We will have our annual business meeting on June 4th. That's the first Sunday in June. So there'll be more to come on that, but what we will do there is approve our budget, elect the election of officers and board members, and then we'll have a congregational meeting discussion afterwards to talk about the church, the future of the church, where we're going. So we're planning to not have a speaker that Sunday, just a business meeting. And also last, we're looking for more help with Katie back there on the computer. Tony's sitting there today learning. We'd like to have another person or two who can fill in that capacity. So if you're interested, get in touch with Katie and just work with her. She'll help you walk through this, learn the ropes during one of our services. So that is it for me. Anything else? No. All right. Oh, one more. I forgot. If you do want to contribute to the church, you can mail your check contribution to P.O. Box 331 in Tullahoma, 37388. And that will get to Costa, our treasurer. All right, now we'll move on to our responsive reading. and the title is With Love as Your Guide. Amidst the swirl of life's challenges, fears, and even moments of crisis, I make time to gaze at the night sky to see the vastness there, and to remember that this moment in time is but a flicker, not an inconsequential flicker.
For what I do and think now does matter. My work, though, is to let the debris of this world pass by.
While I anchor myself to do what I know is true, love, kindness, and compassion,
And caring for this precious life, this precious planet, and all that calls this place home. This is my North Star. With love as my guide, how can I possibly go wrong?
All right, now is time for our speaker. So, Julia, if you'll come up to the front, and it's all yours. Give us a little background, I guess, on who you are, to start with, and then move into your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Julia Logan Mays, and I am the volunteer coordinator at Compassus Hospice and Palliative Care. And y'all hear me okay? Everything okay? I have handed out a couple of handouts. So who is Compassus? So we service 12 counties in southern Middle Tennessee, and we provide hospice and palliative care for these 12 counties. We started off over 27 years ago as Hospice of the Highland Rim. And I don't know if anybody remembers us from those days. So their service map is here, and we service 6 counties out of Tullahoma and 6 counties out of our Lawrenceburg and Columbia office. So quite a wide range of counties that we serve. But here we service Bedford, Cannon, Coffee, Franklin, Grundy, and more. And on the other side of this handout, I love this sheet because it really just breaks it down pretty clearly as what is hospice, and then what is palliative care, and what's the difference, and who pays for it, and all of that kind of thing. So with hospice care, it has to be someone has to have a terminal illness, meaning that the doctor has to sign an order saying that if this disease process took the normal course, that this person might not be alive in 6 months. And Medicare has very strict guidelines about the different diseases that are out there that we tend to take, people would have and that we tend to take care of. So it might be a COPD, it might be end-stage heart disease, end-stage Alzheimer's. Saying that the doctor has to sign this order, not everybody goes down the track of statistics. And you might look at this patient, the doctor might look at this patient and all the information about the patient and make that statement, and we might end up having that patient for a shorter period of time or maybe even a longer period of time. But as long as they continue to qualify within those Medicare guidelines, then we are able to keep them on our service. It would have to be somebody that is not seeking a curative treatment. So it's somebody maybe that has done a lot of chemo and radiation, and they're ready to move on to take a more natural course and just not be going for those treatments anymore, not seeking that curative treatment. But they must meet all that end-stage disease criteria that Medicare sets out in those guidelines, and it's paid for by Medicare Benefit Part A. And then with palliative care, that can be a chronic illness. It can be something like an early stage cancer where you're still seeking treatment, or it could be maybe an early stage COPD, that kind of thing. You can be seeking curative treatment with that and prolonging treatment. And this referral comes to us from the patient's physician. They will call our office and say, I would like for you to go out and see patient so-and-so, and our nurse practitioner would go out and visit that patient and have goals of care conversation and monitor that person in their home, sometimes also with telehealth as well. There's no eligibility criteria, and that would be paid for under Medicare Part B. Are you all familiar with hospice and palliative care? And so, what do you think about when you hear somebody say hospice? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Somebody's about to die. Yeah,
Yeah, and do you think it's coming quickly?
usually.
Yes. And that is one of the myths that surrounds us, and that is one of the most important things that I feel like that we can come out, and I appreciate so much allowing me to come today and just sharing this, because so often I find that it's so beneficial to have these conversations in a setting like this, rather than maybe in a hospital room where the doctor mentions it and then it's very scary, especially if that's what you think that this is it. We do have cases sometimes that we have patients that come on board with us that they have a very short period of time. And then we have other cases that they come to us, and once we're allowed to come into the home and get that pain management under control, and maybe their quality of life will possibly just slow down, be better. And maybe a goal for us is trying to learn what's important to them and what's their greatest concern, and how we can make every single day as best as they can live it and have it. Then we try to focus on that. Each of our patients have just an individual care plan, and so that is our goal, is to help people live the best they can with every day that they have. I will tell you that recently we had a patient that we've had on our service for, it was a little over 3 years. So a lot of times people think it's immediate, and yes, it can be. And especially sometimes too, they might have been referred to us, but maybe they were like, no, I don't need it, I'm gonna wait till the end. And then they get in a big pain crisis, and then they call us, and it's like, oh my gosh, let's get on board, help everybody. And then it can be a very short stay. And that's hard. That's really hard on the patient, it's hard on the family, it's hard for everybody to kind of get their mind wrapped around, what's going on with their loved one. So I think that the more we're able to talk about it, and I love to just have conversation about it, and feel free to ask questions along the way if there's something you want to know about. Yes?
How do you, we do have a talk back later, so I don't wanna.
Yes.
I don't wanna blow that.
Okay,
but,
sure.
When we do have that, maybe you could talk about how you prepare your hospice workers psychologically for the demands of the role they play.
Okay. I mean, I can answer it now, or I can answer it later, whatever you want to go there
Spoiler
later.
alert. Okay, yeah.
So we do have a bereavement counselor on within our, I'm getting ready to talk about that in a minute, on our team, and we also have a chaplain. So we kind of lean on each other. Yes, this is hard work, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about our social workers too. Our social workers get out there and they see everything, every circumstance, you can imagine in people's homes. And so, yeah, it can be heavy, and we have to be able to learn to be able to talk about it and share with one another, and if we feel like we've got too much, then we take a step back and take some time. But it's something that's ongoing that we talk about and that we support each other with. Yeah. Does that kind of answer somewhat? Yeah. I think everybody finds their own way of dealing with stress, and one thing Roxanne brought up earlier is getting outside and getting out with nature and digging in the dirt. I mean, for you, as for me, that is a refuel. You know, and a lot of times when I'm a volunteer coordinator, so when we have volunteers that might go in and sit in the home with a patient so the caregiver can get out, maybe just walk around the block, maybe just go sit on the porch swing, just to not have that listening ear. And so sometimes just the simplest of things, coming here, you know, being around friends, refueling your cup can be the most beneficial thing of all. One of the things I wanted to give you just a little bit of history is in 1948, Dame Cicely Saunders was in London, and she was a social worker, and she was a nurse, and she was a doctor. And she is known to be the founder of hospice. And our modern day hospice in America came to Connecticut in 1974. And so a little backstory on our hospice and how we arrived here is Mary and Dr. Richard Weiss moved here from Virginia. She was a nurse, he was a doctor, and they came to, you know this, Tom, they came to Tullahoma, and she recognized immediately that there was no hospice here. She was an RN and she was in home health, and she went to a patient one day and it was mentioned that the patient was like, what am I supposed to do? The doctor said there's nothing more for me to do. And I think that probably was one thing that spurred her on to organizing for the hospice movement in Tullahoma. So it has been wonderful to be able to have people that came on board with her at that time and helped bring that to our 6 counties that we service now. And then at one point she found out that a hospice was pulling out of the rural counties over where Columbia and Lawrenceburg are, and she went to the state to apply for an emergency certificate of need in order to have those 6 counties added in. So we have 12 counties under our certificate of need over the past 27 years that we've serviced. So it's a huge benefit to rural communities, for sure. You know, it's different when you're in the city, you have access to lots of things, but it's wonderful that we can be at home here and have hospice serve us. In 2006, she hired me as a volunteer coordinator, and she stepped to the role. She had sold Hospice of the Highland Rim to Community Hospices of America, which is now Compassus. And our corporate office is in Brentwood, and we have over 100 across the country, but she kept Hospice of the Highland Rim, turned it into a foundation, so they are strictly a charity organization. So they raise money to not only help some of our financial patients that are in need, but to help other hospice companies that serve this area when they have hospice patients that maybe need a food voucher for their monthly food, or maybe they need a little help with an electric bill or something like that. So we, anytime that we have money that comes to us with a donation for a family member or something, we say, please just give it to Hospice of the Highland Rim Foundation, because that's where we were born, and we are very, even though we're not connected, we still have a lot of warm feelings for them, because that's where we were born. One of the things that when I was reading last night, I'd seen this video about Dame Cicely Saunders, is she has a quote that I think is so important, and that is, you matter because you're you, and you matter to the last moment of your life. We will do all that we can, not only to help you die peacefully, but also to live until you die. And I love that. I love that. I do. I think it's so important. Whether it's a bucket list, or, you know, sometimes we have hospice patients that say, I just want to go to Florida one more time to see the ocean, or maybe I just want to get to my granddaughter's graduation. And so whatever we can do, whatever that one thing is that we can help them do, then that's what we're going to help. Will it happen? Maybe. Sometimes, you know, the patients are strong enough to be able to for that to foresee that and to see that happen. But that's always a goal, is doing what's right by the patient. She also has another quote: suffering is only intolerable when nobody cares. So I think, I hope that if anybody has had a hospice story or hospice experience, I hope you felt that. I hope you've seen that. That it's It's a different group of people, and I think we're all here for a reason. It has to speak to us. For our volunteers, sometimes our volunteers come to us having been involved with a family that had hospice, and so they just want to give back or do something that is certainly very meaningful. We recognize too that not all pain is physical. You know, not all pain is going to be that physical pain that is going on. There's a lot of spiritual pain too. We might have a veteran that we bring on service, and they might not have talked about anything in their past up until now. And maybe now they feel like they want to talk to somebody. And that's why it's so important for us to have veteran volunteers, because sometimes that veteran to veteran is different than anything else. Sometimes they're waiting to see a loved one, maybe that they haven't seen in a long time, or waiting to make some amends with somebody. And sometimes that is it. Maybe once they see maybe that grandchild they haven't seen in a while, or that son or daughter, to kind of mend a fence, then it kind of allows that peace to come over them and to go on. And the other thing too that I kind of wanted to touch on, and I know Jack, our bereavement coordinator, will be coming here in August to talk a little bit about bereavement and grief and everything. But to know too that grief doesn't start when the patient dies. Many times you have grief that starts when that diagnosis is given and the roles are changing with a spouse, or maybe you've suffered other losses, and then this one, it just intensifies what this experience is going to be like. So those are all things that are addressed and worked through, I think, with many of the folks on our service, especially with being the social workers and the chaplains, and sometimes the bereavement coordinator will get involved for pre-bereavement counseling rather than after the patient passes away. I think the one thing that we hear most is, I wish I had called you sooner. I didn't know. I think that's one of the things, and I think that's why the importance of all this is so valuable to people. We have what's known as an interdisciplinary team, or an interdisciplinary group, and that is how we care for our patients. Our patients are at the center of that group. And so the medical director is one of the team members, and so here in Tullahoma at our office here, we have Dr. Rob Nichols, who has a practice himself, but he also is our medical director for hospice. And then we have Dr. Jay Trussler, who is out of Manchester, and he is one of our medical directors. They're the ones that actually sign that order, and they also stating that that person is eligible for hospice. And then they also preside over our meetings that we have weekly. They take turns every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. We have a meeting about our patients. Our in-case managers, so they're the ones that actually provide the care, go into the home, make the plan of care to determine how best to take care of this patient. They're in very much communication with the doctor. One of our doctors is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's either Dr. J or Dr. Nichols will be available to the nurse via text, via phone call, to order medications or ask a question if something comes up at 3 a.m. in Swanee or in Huntland, any of our service areas. So they have access to our doctors. You have to be a pretty strong hospice nurse to be out there in the field, but you know that you've always got lots of support. We also hire LPNs as well, and sometimes they work in conjunction with our RNs. LPNs are not allowed to pronounce a death in the state of Tennessee, so that's when it's important for us to have RNs on ours, for the main case managers. We also have hospice health aides, and so those are the people that have licensed CNAs, so they come into the home or go into the facility and give personal care, baths, maybe shave, wash hair, paint fingernails. Many times people say, no, I don't want anybody coming in and giving me a bath. Well, I encourage people to say, let them come in, let them help you do something, let them, wash your hair or trim your fingernails, because it's important to build that relationship, because one of these days, once you have that relationship built, they might say, you know what, today I'm so tired, can you help me get to the shower? I don't want you to give me a shower, but just help me get in there. So, you know, they work their way in, and oftentimes they're the ones that get just the closest with our patients because they give that personal care. Our social workers. So the social workers are doing things that are non-medical. They're going in, having the hard conversations. They and the chaplains have to visit within the first 5 days of admission. So they're going in and determining who the family members are, who's going to be the caregiver, the main caregiver, what the plan is. There are some people that have lots of family members helping. There are other families that have very few. Maybe they don't have a spouse or a loved one, a family member. Maybe it's going to be a friend that's going to move in with them, or they're going to move in with their friend. If they're in a facility, we take care of patients also not only in the homes, but in assisted livings and nursing homes. So we still like to put somebody down as the point of contact, being the patient caregiver. So the social worker not only determines that, but they ask those hard questions, having the conversations about funeral homes and insurance. They're there to help wade through some of those insurance issues that families are often so strapped by, the overwhelming feeling of that. And just a great family advocate. That is one of our former, she's now retired, she liked to be called, I'm a patient family advocate, because sometimes people had a hard time seeing the social workers come in. So she loved to say that. Our chaplains are great. They meet patients where they are, where there is any type of religious belief or not religious belief. We are there to just support the patient and the family, which is a wonderful thing. Sometimes people have an idea that the chaplain will be coming in and giving a sermon, and that is not the case at all. He's there to just support and listen and offer prayer and that kind of thing if the patients wish to have that. And then, of course, our bereavement coordinator, Jack, I mentioned him before, that you'll meet in August. I think oftentimes people don't really realize Medicare requires that all hospices have bereavement programs and also have volunteer programs. So, to me, one of the things for the families that should give the patient much comfort is that somebody's going to be checking on that patient caregiver after the patient passes. Jack will be following our patients for 13 months after the patient passes away. So I think that is a great benefit. Somebody to connect with, somebody that's going to be checking in, sending you mailings, offering you to come for a group at our office. Not only does he offer that for our patients, but he also offers sessions for community people to come into our office and participate in bereavement groups. So I think that is just a huge thing that a lot of people don't realize that we do offer that. All hospices offer that. And then of course, I'm the volunteer coordinator, and so we have volunteers that we're so blessed to have. They come to us sometimes by having a family experience, like I said before, and then sometimes they just come, they see maybe an ad that I have out there or a brochure or somewhere that I've been to talk, and it just speaks to them. It's something that they want to do. There are no hands-on care for our volunteers. They're there really for support, maybe to go visit a patient that we might have in a facility, in a nursing home, or in an assisted living. And then they also go into the home sometimes too, to give patient caregiver relief. Sometimes that caregiver just needs to get out, like I said before, take a walk around the block, get a breath of fresh air, or maybe it would be how great comfort is that to know that you've got a volunteer going to visit your loved one in a facility when you want to be there all the time, but you know you can't. And so I love that part, that our volunteers can go do that. But it is something to witness that I have such an honor in this position to do, because I see so many beautiful things. and so many selfless people that come to us and want to do this. It's not everybody that raises their hands and I want to be a hospice volunteer. I have a lot of people say, I couldn't do that. I think they might think that all of our patients are really on their deathbed and are actively dying when they say that, because many times you might not know that someone is on hospice. They might be driving still, they might be very active still. And I've had volunteers that have had patients in nursing homes and elsewhere for, you know, a year at a time. In the beginning, they have great conversations and that sort of thing, and maybe towards the end, maybe they just go and visit them and sit quietly. But it is a very sweet thing to witness these events and these people that had young people. One time I had an orientation group and had two students from Swanee wanted to be doctors, and then a young girl. So the three of them were in my orientation group, and it was just beautiful. You know, to have young people who would come in and say, I want to do this work. And our patients absolutely love them, because a majority of our patients are older, and to have some young 18, 19, 20-year-old with such a sweet heart, and it was just very special. Our volunteers have to go through background screens. They go through about 8 hours of training, because I want our volunteers to be very confident about what we do and what we provide, because they will be our ambassadors wherever they live in these 6 counties. So we know people don't really like to talk about this subject, right? So if they find out, they see their picture in the paper with me or with the mayor doing a proclamation like we did a couple of weeks ago for National Volunteer Week, they might say, I didn't know you volunteered for them. What exactly did they do? I want them to feel really good about how to explain it and feel confident about that. I have brought with me a few things that I want to make sure that you pick up, and one of them is I've got some flyers in the other room. Let's see, put on here. Let's see, I got something here. So if you want any more information, got a hospice brochure, which just kind of gives an overview of hospice care, hospice volunteers in one of my cards, and then a wonderful brochure about Hospice of the Highland Rim, and kind of a little more in detail about where we were born and what they do, and then one on our palliative care. So these are great references to be able to pick up and look at. And the other thing I wanted to touch on today is 5 wishes and advanced directives. So when I go out and talk about these things, I think the best gift, one of the best gifts that you can give, we can all give our families, is having our wishes down on paper. It's a gift. It is a gift to tell to determine who's going to be your agent, who's going to be that person that's going to speak for you if you cannot, and what you want, what you don't want. And so one of these books is wonderful because it's almost like a fill in the blank. Brings up all kinds of questions, even to the point of what kind of funeral service do you want, or do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? You know, so that's a gift to your family. So I just have to always put that plug in there because I think it's important. And you might be asking, well, how does this relate? How does this all relate to me? Why am I here? Well, springtime, about 22 years ago in March 30th, my husband was brought home to our home here in Tullahoma, not too far from here, with hospice care. And he had been fighting a brain tumor for about 22 months. And we had lived away and we moved back to our hometown to be close to our families. And I'll have to say it was like angels walking in my door. It was. I was a fairly young mom and had 2 boys. We had 2 boys, and he had been struggling with his illness for all those 22 months. And it was just somebody to help me, somebody to guide us along the way. As hard as it is to talk about, to just be able to be a hand to hold and say, this is what you can expect. This is what could happen next. And so sometimes just being able to speak about it just takes a little bit of that fear out. Not that it's not going to be hard, because it's one of the most challenging things in your life, right? One of the things that we don't really want to face. My father came on our service at the same time as my dad, about a month into it. My husband was on our service about 6 weeks, from the end of March until May 3rd. It'll be 22 years, May 3rd. So it was a gift, you know, and that's why I do what I do, because I can go out and talk about it, because I know the importance, I know what it brings to families, not only to the patients, but to the families. We care for the families, whoever that might be friends, might be something like that, but we focus on each individual patient. So I just knew that by experiencing that one day I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. We moved around all over the country, and then when we came back home, I knew that one day that I would go back to work, and when I did, it had to mean something. You know, I think your whole perspective changes when you go through things like that. Even though I had been around death all my life, I grew up at Dave's Culbertson Funeral Home in Tullahoma upstairs. My dad was a funeral director, and I'd been around it all my life. But there for a period of time around that stage, it hit, and it hit hard, and it hit with several family members. So life can change pretty quick. And anyway, but I appreciate y'all letting me be here today and talking about all this. I'm very much available and open to lots of questions. And but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julia. I appreciate it. We will now close with our traditional song, 414, as we leave this friendly place. So let's try you guys singing, Cass and I'll sing, and let's see if you guys stand up and see if you can sing with us. Let's see how this works here, how much delay we have through the internet. All right, 1, 2, 3. As we leave this friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Not bad.
All right. Let's take a 10-minute break. That would be 5 minutes after 11, and come back for talkback.
Connie, can we talk to you just a minute?
Yeah, I'll be right there.